Welcome to Awakening You channel. Signs and synchronicity are living guides to life on Earth. The power of these signals, and what some call coincidence, is to enlighten our path and reassure us that we are taking the right steps no matter how radical they may seem. As these times become more filled with disruptive events and change, we need to become very connected to our inner guidance, in order to function with mastery on the earth. A spiritual practice becomes a practical, empowering tool for inner peace and wisdom in perilous times. I have produced many messages from Archangel Gabriel over the years with a similar message. Like most everyone else, I have been watching the increase of natural disasters and the amazing collapse of economic systems and world governments. I have been observing people who are unable to stay in their homes and jobs, and it is abundantly clear that we need inner guidance more than ever. There is no longer any security in our outer world, and we need to cultivate faith and trust in ourselves in order to find our way. As a people, we immerse ourselves in worldly activities, numb our minds with television, and let worry and fear overtake our mental states. Of course, there needs to be an element of responsibility and logical behavior, but if we make clear intentions to follow our soul's calling, all of the outer plane existence will fall into miraculous order, even if it includes the sometimes dramatic dissolution of life as you have known it. I have seen this repeatedly over the years, and after recently receiving some nudges from the angelic dimensions in the form of repeating phrases and synchronicity over the past week, it seemed like time for me to come out my hermitage to share with you some of my personal stories of signs and synchronicity. Believe me, I am not advocating that you do what I did. Hopefully you will take intentional steps to take care of your life before it is necessary to go through such radical transformation. In my late 20s, I first began to notice synchronicity when all of the many varied books I was reading at the time began to carry the same message. They were pointing to a life oriented by a higher power combined with clear inner intentional awareness. During that time, events occurred that suddenly freed me to explore these ideas in action. I began an adventurous 7-year road trip, with only my dog for company, in order to find my true calling and path in life. During that time I became more comfortable with prayer and began paying attention to coincidental meetings and signs from the road. My very first sign, one of the more humorous, not to mention clear, signs, occurred when I was just over 30. I had taken a temporary job that had promised another position in the future. I was not a match for the job or for the location where I was working, and I became very unhappy. One day I was driving from the beautiful mountain hideaway where I lived down into the Central Valley of California to work. I became increasingly disgruntled as I drove out of clear sunshine into the brown smoggy fog that was normal for the area. I began to pray harder and found myself asking for a sign from God to show me if it was time for me to quit this hated job. I said I was willing to stay if it was in my highest good, but I needed clear guidance. I prayed throughout my 30-minute journey. When I walked into work, I was called into the manager's office where she promptly fired me. I don't even remember why it was done, but I do remember trying not to laugh at the blatant and very obvious sign from the universe that I was not supposed to be there. Of course, I found new creative ways to take care of myself, and my life became more harmonious. From that point in 1975, I did my best to live according to the signals of my heart. Were there times when I did not pay attention? Of course, and times when my desires overcame my inner guidance. This was especially true after I was married and began to give away portions of myself and lose touch with my true feelings. It was all in the name of service to another and keeping peace in my marriage. Blah blah blah, but it had the effect of eroding my connection to the impulse of my spirit in the relationship. There came a time, while living in Hawaii in late 1998, when the signs and signals could no longer be ignored. Throughout a 1-year period my outer life began to dissolve a piece at a time. The angel business I had poured myself and enormous sums of money into for years went bankrupt, we lost our house, my appendix burst, I had a car accident and went into menopause. I was so confused about the future I began to pray for clarity and signs to help me know what to do. The only message I received at the moment was, "Just when did you think you would need faith?" And synchronicity and signs came into being soon after. However, I was invited to teach a class about angelic communication in Michigan. While I was there, I visited a retreat center whose spiritual director was someone I knew in the past. He invited me to stay at the center while I sorted my life out, and I could feel myself being drawn to the idea. While I had happily lived in Hawaii for over 20 years without a thought to leaving, I was enticed by the peaceful country setting and regular spiritual practice. I knew that it could jeopardize my marriage, so I wanted to be really clear before taking the radical step. I went out to the river on the property to seek guidance. I called on the divine presence, my soul, my higher self, and every angel, guide, and master that may have guided me in this life, to come and help me. What was revealed was surprising in its simple clarity. I was told, "You will not fulfill your spiritual destiny unless you come to this place and stay from October 1st through January 15. I sat there in awe. Even though it seemed like that was a long separation in a marriage, my husband and I had always given each other time for spiritual retreat. In fact, our relationship began over the months that he was traveling with our guru. So it was not impossible that it could still work, but it did not bode well, considering the shakiness of our marriage after all of the recent losses. As I sat on the bank of the river and let my thoughts unfurl, I realized that all of that clear guidance was in my mind, and maybe my heart, but I needed some clear physical demonstration in order to follow such an extreme path. As I walked away from the river, I asked for a sign that would be unmistakable. I declared that I was willing to follow whatever guidance was revealed to me beyond a shadow of a doubt. As I continued to walk, there came a signal that is still without equal in the years that followed. I was stopped suddenly because I was covered in hundreds of butterflies. They flew to my head, walked on my face, crawled on my arms and my legs, and totally surrounded me. Then just as suddenly, they flew away, leaving in light-filled energy sparkling in the air around me. What would you have said? That good old faithless part of me said, "Well, that was really good, but how about just one more little sign?" And there at my feet was a small puddle into which flew 2 blue butterflies that were then joined by 1 yellow butterfly. That was what it took for me to totally surrender and trust that I was being inspired by my soul's presence. God had taken charge, and I had faith that no matter what happened, I would be protected, guided, and directed from then on. I was allowing my new life to burst into being. And did we all live happily ever after? I am not going to pretend it was easy after that day in late 1999, but it was the catalyst for my husband and I to create the lives we were meant to be living in order to follow our unique destinies. He immediately found a new wife, got married a week after our divorce was final, and had a baby a month later. On the other hand, I became a somewhat aged, wandering sadhu. In India, this is a spiritual aspirant without earthly belongings who wanders in search of enlightenment. In the 7 years that followed, not only did I meet a number of great spiritual teachers, I also received inner guidance and lessons that are the basis of my life today. Even though our lives look very different from what we had planned, I have no doubt that my former husband and I are both happier and more fulfilled in all the ways that matter. After our divorce, he told me that he would never have had the courage to do what I did. I can understand where he was coming from, because we had created a beautiful life in the material world that was hard to give up. But for me it had less to do with courage, and more to do with faith. Many years before any of these occurrences, I had turned my life over to God and had devoted myself to service in whatever form that manifested for my highest good. When the signs were so clear, how could I refute the guidance I had asked for and received so abundantly? There are times in our lives when our souls call for the divine, in the form of what one of my friends calls the lone arranger, to step into what appears to be our secure lives. The purpose is to pull the rug out from under our complacency and attachment so we can fulfill our true destiny. We have all committed to completing our soul's purpose in different ways, and we have lessons to learn. I believe that all that transpires in our lives is working toward that end, no matter what it looks like. Signs, everywhere a sign we are living within a compressed timeline of tremendous upheaval and change. We can see what is going on in the world and how it often mirrors what we are feeling in our individual lives. All that we trusted to be secure and stable in many ways has been subject to surprising changes we never imagined. In the midst of this upheaval, we only have our faith in divine guidance and our connection to this source energy to assist our process, and we might feel very separate. Of course, we are never really alone, as there are angels that step into our lives at just these moments in order to guide our paths. We have to invite their assistance, however, so this is really an important part of our process. What else can we do before our lives start falling apart? One is to gain balance and equilibrium in yourself through a meditative practice and other steps that help you feel harmony within. Sometimes that still quiet voice within is buried in the cacophony that is our mental state, yet the commitment you are making to have inner connection with your divine self starts a powerful process in motion. When we take one step towards God, the universe pours out abundant miracles to support our path. This dedication to knowing your inner spirit allows you to learn to trust your inner guidance. While you are creating a spiritual practice, you are also cultivating faith. You are learning to value your peace so much that you will go to great lengths not to lose your inner balance. These were some very valuable lessons I have learned during the 10 years since the divorce. Another has been the importance of staying present and grounded. Without an awareness of how I am feeling, and what is happening around me, I might miss some of the tremendous opportunities the universe is always providing for me. I am also allowing myself to be loved and supported on both the physical and non-physical level, reaching out to friends in a new way. I keep my spiritual practice, and give myself time every day to make my intentions for the day and my life. Even if it is only for 5 minutes, I give myself the gift of silence, and fill myself with divine light. I invite into my life my angels and the masters that guide me, and I allow their presence to remind me that I am not truly alone. And most importantly, I ask for signs and pay attention to synchronicity because I know this is one of the best ways for inner guidance to show me I am on track. I do my best to stay very present to whatever is happening in the moment because this is where the opportunities and creative solutions abound. Here is what Archangel Gabriel has been saying about this process: Dear ones, as the time approaches for mastery of the physical plane, there is confusion in the minds of those who work to bring more clarity to their life path. Extreme measures are often necessary as life's twists and turns become ever more frequent. A daily check-in for energy flow is helpful when it becomes the norm. Often it is necessary to ask for more obvious guidance when life is moving at such a fast pace. The request for physical signs has been one of the ways people have tracked their progress for millennia. Requesting a sign can provide an obvious designation in moments when extreme clarity is paramount. There are moments when there is an impulse from within and often a message that repeats in the mind. If you feel you need more clarity, a physical sign can be requested. When this request is sent into the universe, there needs to be a framework asking for it to be obvious, as well as a prayer for alignment with your higher self, divine wisdom, guardian angels, and masters. After you have called forth your highest guidance, you know that the demonstration must be trusted. The signs you receive become relevancy markers on your path. It takes great faith and courage to follow your inner guidance in the face of logic, the need for security and unknown outcomes. But what other way does your higher self have to get your attention, except through signs, signals, and synchronicity? Be at peace, and know that all is truly well. Many blessings to all. Shanta Gabriel for Archangel Gabriel.